Welcome to Lead Quick Videos. In this video, we want to look at the political history as the election for 2023 presidential election draws nearer and nearer. It becomes important that we look at, the political history of Nigeria. We look at the voting patterns, based on precedents that have been set in the past, to help us to begin to make projections, accurate projections on the potentialities or the parties and the candidates that are poised or that are looking like the parties or the candidates that will be winning the forthcoming election. Now, this is based on the fact that the study of past political movements, past political developments, events, and relations from the past help us to form a valuable part of making sense of what is going to happen in the future. This is because history provides study materials to political pundits, political scientists, political animals like you and I, to serve us as a foundation for studying current political movements, events, and their relations to what happened in the past, vis-a-vis what is going to happen in the future. For example, one of the foremost presidents of the United States, in the person of Thomas Jefferson, once prescribed history for whoever that wants to participate in self-government. According to Thomas Jefferson, participating in history or studying history will enable you to prepare for things that are to come. So it helps you to make projections so that you are not caught unawares. So by studying the choices and decisions of the past, we can confront today's problems and choices with a deeper awareness of the alternatives before us, and the consequences, the likely consequences of each of those choices that we will make, particularly as it relates to the political parties and the political candidates. Now, the knowledge of history is a precondition of political intelligence. Without history, a society shares no common memory of where it has been, what it is, its core values, what are its core values, or what decisions of the past account for the present circumstances that we find ourselves. For instance, you and I will agree that the decisions in the past, in terms of who we elected as our president or as our governor or as our National Assembly members or even state assembly members, has a direct correlation to the problems that we have found ourselves in Nigeria. You can't deny that fact. And so it becomes imperative, for us to also look at history when it comes to how did we vote, in those elections that made us to vote these kind of leaders that have not been able to perform. So now, why this is also very important at this juncture where the political process, the democratic process is actually gathering momentum, is because people are becoming more aware. People now know that actually the way we voted in the past, the leaders we voted in the past has not helped us. Now, if you look at the current political climate, if you look at the current political candidates, the presidential candidates for the various parties that will be contesting for this election, you will discover that it is looking more like the shape of the 1979 presidential election. And that is why we are telling you that history in this coming election is trying to repeat itself. Now, for instance, in the 1979 presidential elections, we had, the candidates and the parties coming from, the three key geopolitical zones of the country. So we had the persons like Shehu Shagari of the National Party of Nigeria. We had Obafemi Awolowo of the Unity Party of Nigeria. And we have Nnamdi Azikiwe of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons. Then we have Waziri Ibrahim. These are the other smaller parties of the Greater Nigeria People's Party, and we also have Aminu Kano of the People's Redemption Party. Now, all these parties and their candidates were spread across the 3 geopolitical zones. Now, in 2023 election as well, we are almost having the same scenario play out, where we have one major candidate from the north in the person of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, then another major candidate from the west in the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and another major candidate from the east in the person of Peter Obi, just as we had Shagari, Awolowo, and Azikiwe in 1979. And so, if you also look critically, in the north, we had some other candidates, which we, for the purpose of this video, we consider that they were also smaller parties, because eventually Shagari was the one that won the election coming from the north. Okay, just as we also have smaller party candidates currently in the north, in the person of Kwankwaso and I think one other candidate as well. So for us, this is not just a coincidence. It's not just a historical coincidence. Rather, there are lessons that we think that can be learned from history. Now, in this video, using our historical and political intelligence, we want to examine, the zones, the states, and the strategies that will help to determine who will win the 2023 presidential election based on extant and established historical precedents. Now, let's go into it. In 1979, Shagari eventually won the election by winning 3 of the 4 states and 59% of votes in the North Central Zone. 59% of the vote in North Central Zone, specifically the Middle Belt region. Now, that gave him the victory in 1979. Now, fast forward to 20 years after 1979 election, the next election after that very military imbroglio that kept us away from democratic process until 1999 election, we had the person, because of the political climate, we had the political, the candidates for that presidential election coming from the southwest in the person of Olusegun Obasanjo of the PDP and Olufalaye of the Alliance for Democracy, AD. Now, don't forget, based on the political climate and exigencies of the 1999, it is safe to assume that Obasanjo was a northern candidate because he was supported to emerge in the PDP primaries by the northern hegemonic forces in a way of trying to compensate for the loss of MKO Abiola. Now, while the AD won the entire southwestern zone along with 3 northern states including Taraba and Yobe, Obasanjo and the PDP won every other zone including 6 states of the North Central Zone, giving him 71% of the votes in that region. And that also, like in the case of Shagari, winning the North Central Zone and the Middle Belt in particular, Obasanjo also won that very election because he also won the North Central Zone, the Middle Belt in particular. Now, in 2003, Muhammad Buhari contested against Obasanjo. Now, in that election, while Buhari won some parts of the north, likely the northwest and the northeast, Obasanjo captured the southwest. And if you look critically into that result, PDP won all the states in the North Central with 62% of the total votes in that region. So again, Obasanjo won that very election, essentially defeating a northern candidate by winning the North Central vote. Now, the 2011 election saw Jonathan contest against Buhari from the north as well. But by this time, Buhari was using the platform of the Congress for Progressive Change, CPC. Now, while Buhari also won in Niger State, Jonathan secured 65% of the votes in the North Central region. And by winning the 65%, which is the highest vote from that region, Jonathan won the election. Fast forward to 2015. Now, the defection in 2015, the top members of PDP from the North Central zone experienced a massive defection from PDP to another party. Now, when Bukola Saraki of the APC, because by that time they have formed, merging CPC, AMPP together, they have formed, and the AD or Action Congress, they were able to form the APC. And so when they formed this APC, okay, and Saraki with other top governors, top former governors from the North Central zone, like Benue, Niger, Plateau, defected from the PDP to the APC. It opened the door for APC in that zone, and the result was that the North Central and the presidency, swung away from the PDP. From winning 65% of the vote in the region in 2011, PDP and Jonathan was only able to secure 42% of the vote, leaving the APC and Buhari to win 58% of the vote and 4 of the 6 North Central states. This resulted in APC winning the election. In the 2019 election again, APC won most states of the region, and for their part, although PDP won back Benue, but they lost Nasarawa state as well. But in the overall, APC won 55% of the votes in the North Central zone to PDP's 45%. And like we have said, historically, whoever wins the North Central zone wins the presidency, and as a result, APC retained the presidency. So you can see the trend from 1979. The party that and the candidate that wins the presidential election has always won the North Central zone, especially the election if it's contested on the tripod of the North, West, and Southeast. So in summary, the 2023 presidential election will be determined by the North Central zone. Why do we think that the North Central and specifically the Middle Belt will determine the 2023 election? Because it's not enough for us to say because of the way it has been happening historically. There are data, there are facts that backed up this assertion. And so, to provide a contextual analysis of our position, let us unpack the essential parts of the Nigerian politics. Because in Nigerian politics, there are 2 key factors that drives the vote: religion and tribe. Religion and tribe. Now, historically, the Middle Belt was originally part of the old northern region of colonial Nigeria. We want you to now understand why the Middle Belt and the North Central zone, has always been the swing zone or the swing states or the state that determine who wins the election in Nigeria. Judging from the 2 factors that drive Nigerian politics, which is religion and tribe. Now, unlike the core northern states, the minority groups dominate the North Central zone, and Christianity and Islam are roughly of equal size in the North Central zone. Okay, unlike the core northern states where you have possibly the Muslims having a larger population, in a very wide margin. Then, if you also look at the structure, in terms of the tribes, okay, the tribes in the North Central zone are spread across because of the historical movement that gave rise to the North Central zone. Now, in 1979, after the switch to a presidential system, and with Awolowo and Azikiwe running for president, the Southwest and the Southeast, as we know them today, voted in block along ethnic lines. So you have a situation whereby a candidate from the north, having a major vote from the north, a candidate from the southwest having the major vote from the southwest, then the candidate from the east, the southeast, having the major vote from the southeast. Now, this is the way, the pattern that we have had it from 1979, and we are also believing that this trend is going to continue in 2023. Another factor contributing to the north central position as the election deciding region is its religious diversity, which we have tried to point out before now. So while the southeast and the south are Christian, the middle belt and the southwest are mixed, okay, and the north is Muslim. So the only exception are having some little chunk of Muslims in the southeast, some little chunk of Muslims in the southwest, and some little chunk of Christians in the north, in the core north. But when you come to the north central, the amount of Muslims and the amount of Christians are largely like equal. The difference is not much. Okay, so this is why the vote that comes from the north central is not really about where the person is coming from. It is largely about what the country is looking out for in that very election. Where is the public opinion? Which candidate is controlling the highest public opinion? And that is why the vote from the north central usually determine who wins the election, because they are not going to vote based on where the person is coming from. They are going to vote based on who has capacity, who is more preferred, and who is going to give the country the best leadership. And that is because the centrality of this of this factor is because the people in the north central, let me use Abuja as an example. By the time the election comes, most of the northern brothers will be traveling back to the north to vote, to the core north to vote, leaving the Abuja metropolis for largely those from the southwest, those from the southeast, and those from the north central that is not very far away from Abuja to vote in Abuja. So you discover that largely the people that will win the election in Abuja is not about the tribe or about where the person is coming from or about the religion. That is also how it is going to happen largely in Niger, in Nasarawa, in Plateau, in Benue. And by the end of the day, you will see that these votes will now be based on credibility, competence, and consistency of whoever that the nation is looking up to. In the next video, we are going to analyze the polls, the opinion polls that have been conducted, several of them that have been conducted. Check the next video and see for yourself where the country is facing in terms of 2023 presidential election.